All right, music fans, welcome. I am Dave. I am the real music observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. I'm in a bit of a wacky mood. I just read this article that proved what I said about Eric Clapton a couple of weeks ago was going to happen, and it's happening. This thing that Eric Clapton said like in 1976, what's that, like 45 years ago? And again, I'm not excusing what he said. It was an unfortunate rant. I'm going to go on record and say I don't agree with what he said. It does sound rather bigoted, although I will say that the immigration issue is rather complicated and isn't as cut and dry as people think it should be. And if you are for one point of view on this issue, you're obviously a jerk, all right? But if you're for another part, which is the, hey, just come on in with no consequences and it'll be great, and we don't have to even know where you're from, we don't have to test you for anything, correct? That's what we're doing right now at our southern border. So it might be related to that issue a bit, but here's where the article is trying to go. It's trying to discredit Eric Clapton as a human being. By the way, Eric Clapton did what everybody said you ought to do. He did it, and things didn't go well for him. Couldn't play the guitar for a while, was in a lot of pain, said if he had the opportunity to do a do-over, he wouldn't have done it. And I look at it this way. Like, I think I used this analogy before, but I'm going to do it again because maybe those folks over at that publication need an illustration. Like if I walk into a restaurant, right, and I order a meal and the meal sucks and I almost die because there's poison in my food, or, they dropped, I don't know, they dropped part of a Brillo pad in my entree and I didn't see it and I just ate it. That would be kind of dumb on my part, but just it got mixed in so well, or, they dumped some cleaning chemicals in there, whatever it might be, right? And so I tell my friends, don't go to that restaurant. I wouldn't go there. Don't do it. The food is horrible. The service is bad. And I almost died. So why would I go back to that restaurant? That's the Eric Clapton analogy. So Eric Clapton goes out there and speaks vociferously. Actually, Clapton was rather subdued compared to his buddy Van Morrison, right? But hey, we've got Clapton on record saying this horrible, bigoted thing. The president of the United States right now was friends with a senator whose name is Robert K. Byrd, passed away a number of years ago. I think he was from West Virginia. Robert K. Byrd was like a grand wizard, cyclops, whatever it, I have no idea how that hierarchy all works. But here's somebody who's currently the president of the United States who is really good friends with somebody, right? Really good friends, like buddies, like praised him, like eulogized him when he passed away. but you've got a dude from 45 years ago who plays guitar really well, who said some unfortunate things. I don't know if he ever apologized, by the way. I'm thinking he might have, because Clapton tends to hang out with like Nathan East and Greg Phillinganes and Robert Cray and a number of other people who probably wouldn't hang with Eric Clapton if they thought he really believed the stuff that he said, okay? And again, I find it quite interesting that the deconstruction of Eric Clapton is taking place not too much after the fact that he decided to be vocal on the topic du jour. And in the rock community, you're supposed to just lockstep. There's no rebellion in rock and roll anymore. Where have all the rebels gone, says Van Morrison. He's spot on. I've been saying this now for about 15 or 16 months. I don't get it. Everybody thinks the way that they're supposed to think. If you step out of line, then guess what? We're going to dig up some stuff from the past and we're going to just make you into the worst human being that's ever lived. And Eric Clapton, by the way, like I said, nobody will talk about Eric Clapton. You know, if he passes away, people are going to be like, yeah, he was a great guitarist, but look at what he said over here in 1976. And then look at the views he had in 2020 and 2021. Wow. Just, I didn't know that about Eric Clapton. He stinks, you know. Jimi Hendrix, #1 by a long shot. And quite honestly, Jimi Hendrix still probably is the greatest guitar player ever. But Clapton will no longer be termed as God with a small g. He'll be called Satan probably instead of God, and that will be the end of that. But I find it quite interesting. The sitting president of the United States has a far worse history when it comes to something like this. And last year it was all about, oh, he's going to be great. He's going to unite the country. It's going to be wonderful. All the rock musicians, oh boy, other than like Ted Nugent, are just like, yeah, we need this guy. And yet that guy can barely like put a sentence together right now. And that's true. That's not me being hyperbolic. It's the truth. But, you know, this is how we go now. This is how we roll. We destroy people that we don't like for whatever reason, because we think we're doing something for the greater good. Okay. The spirit of rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned, is dead. Not only is rock dead, but the spirit of rock and roll is dead, which is really sad. It's actually rather disgusting. And the people at these media outlets, I know it's a slow news day, but because it's a slow news day, we might want to put something out there that makes Eric Clapton look like a jerk. Now, do they ever talk to Clapton about this? Do they ever ask him, hey, did you mean that? Do you still think that way? What's going on? Because one thing about this crowd is they won't forgive you for anything. Say you said or did something, all right? Say you did something that you shouldn't have done. You admit that it was wrong. You repent of it and you try to like fix your life. I know of a person, probably last 5 or 6 years, and I'm not going to mention his name, but they continue to bring up the story, the thing that he was involved in 5 or 6 years ago, rather than celebrating something that just happened. You know, it's like, let's just bring this up again so people know how bad this is. Like the people writing it are perfect. Like they've never done or said anything wrong in their life. Like if you didn't get them, you know, at a bar somewhere having a couple of adult beverages, or, you know, you slip some sodium pentothal into their drink or whatever, and then they start talking and, you know, I can forgive you. I know you had a lot to drink. I know you didn't mean that. But no, this is the culture right now that jumps on people to destroy them. Now, if Clapton had played along, right? If he had said, oh yeah, I wasn't in any pain. It was really great. I'm so happy I did this. It's saving so many lives. It's helping the world. And I'm glad we can go back to normal, even though we're not going back to normal. Notice that none of this stuff is getting us back to normal, but yet we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate nothing. We're going to celebrate more tyranny. And we're going to impugn anybody and their reputation for just going a little bit off the reservation and saying, hey, don't go to that restaurant. Don't do it. The food's lousy. It almost killed me. So that's my video. This will continue. And anyone else, this is what happens to people who speak out. Now, again, for the record, I'm not saying what Clapton said in 1976, 45 years ago. I'm not saying that was good. In fact, it was really, really bad. But I'm wondering what the apology was, if there was one. Do people forgive him? And again, why would these folks hang out with Eric Clapton if he was intrinsically bigoted and was such a horrible human being? I just wonder if they, you know, if knowing this, why would they hang out with Eric Clapton? I guess your guess is as good as my guess, right? So we'll just have to, you know, trust that the media has, you know, all the facts and, you know, not question anything, because if you do that, you're a rebel. And Van Morrison, you know, he's right. Where have all the rebels truly gone?